Good afternoon. It's really great to be back here in beautiful Athens. Thank you, Prime Minister Mitsotakis, dear Kyriakos, for the warm welcome and the insightful discussion. We meet at a time, as you've just said, when it is more important than ever that we stand together and we stand stronger as a union. And here Greece has proven to be the most reliable partner. Let me start by saying that Greece's bounce back has been fantastic, fiscally, economically, and beyond. You set the tone. Unemployment has fallen from over 27% to below 10%, the lowest in more than a decade. Jobs are returning, investment is huge, growth is picking up. Since 2021, and we don't say this enough, Greece's economy has grown faster than the euro area average, with forecasts suggesting 2.5% growth each year. And here I have to commend Prime Minister Mitsotakis. You have led, dear Kyriakos, Greece's comeback, and now Greece is driving Europe forward. Just this week, the Commission released 2.1 billion euros in funds for Greece to keep building. And this is what I especially appreciate about you, dear Prime Minister, is that even we as a parliament, when we ask sometimes difficult questions, you always answer with candour and straightforwardness that allows this country to lead the conversation. Today we also spoke, as you've heard, about Ukraine. We are hopeful and we are determined to help end this war. Discussions on a possible peace plan are ongoing and we have taken important steps forward. The European Parliament has always been clear that any peace agreement must be lasting and just, and with Ukraine at the negotiating table. It must be completely based on the principle that nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. And here, let me also thank the Prime Minister for Greece's continued support for Ukraine. Your provision of US LNG gas not only offers an important lifeline to Ukrainians facing a harsh winter, but it also reinforces our transatlantic partnership that you yourself has been at the very forefront of pushing. Last word on migration. Greece has carried over the years a disproportionate share of Europe's migration strain. And now, as states are starting to be formally recognized as being under migratory pressure, there will be the possibility for the much-needed relief through the new solidarity pool, which is currently being worked through. At the same time, we must make sure that our historic migration and asylum pact is now quickly implemented across all member states. And this is something that is at the top of our priorities in the European Parliament. We're working hard to deliver quickly on the three outstanding files, to speed up asylum procedures and increase returns. And here your experience and expertise must continue to guide our approach forward. And in this regard, I'm very grateful to the hard work of all of Greece's MEPs that they do as members of the European Parliament every day. We have our work cut out for us. Challenges keep increasing, but I have no doubt that together we will meet this moment. Thank you.
Madam President, dear Roberta, it is a pleasure to welcome you to Greece during your second visit as the President of the European Parliament. And I must admit that the timing is perfect because your visit happens on the day of the opening of the Europa Experience. A while ago, we visited this really impressive and interactive area that provides the opportunity to younger Greeks to experience the reality of the European project. This is really meaningful project, and I'm sure that you saw in the eyes of the young people the interest for what this place offers. And of course, this is very useful at a point in time when right and left-wing populists have strong voices. So it is important for us to train our young people to understand that the European Union offers peace and growth in this continent. And that is what we have also been discussing with the President today, also in view of the presidency of the Council that our country is going to assume during the second part of 2027. This is at a time when we need courageous and dynamic and immediate replies and actions. Even more so since the international volatility calls upon Europe to grow up, to become geopolitically mature, to make the strategic choices which are critical for its safety and the prosperity of its people, and at the same time to promote and strengthen relations among member states. We have also discussed diplomatic developments around Ukraine, on which we have agreed. We have also discussed the fact that in this direction, the recently signed energy agreement signed with President Zelensky are important in view of a difficult winter. Of course, the fact that in view of this mobility, we need to achieve a fair and sustainable peace, which also needs to be compatible with security interests of European member states. And Europe has a duty to be present, not with words, but with deeds. Otherwise, we are not going to make history. On the contrary, history will sideline Europe. We have also discussed issues relating to the European economy competitiveness. This is very important for our continent. We basically agree on the fact that the proposals of the Draghi and Letta reports need to be implemented as soon as possible. On the other hand, as regards the need for an integrated single market, which will provide possibilities and the growth potential to all member states and their companies and their businesses, this is also a point of agreement. And in this framework, the initiatives such as the European Savings and Investments Union, the Energy Union, and the simplification of the regulatory framework, doing away with bureaucracy, as well as the new 28th estate for startups, are critical priorities. So many years have passed since the Draghi report, and the progress that has been made is unfortunately inadequate. Today, European businesses are faced with excessive compliance and regulatory costs, which in many times are needless. That is why simplification is necessary, and that is why the omnibus legislative initiative by the European Commission is necessary. But as the dear President is well aware, this requires an agreement and some agreement within the European Parliament, something which is not so easy to achieve in such a diverse area, in such a diverse forum. But sometimes we need to be courageous in order to go beyond the limits of our political families and their ideological starting points. And let me now say how happy I am that at this difficult time, Roberta is the president who has shown that is able to synthesize and take decisions in order for us to do what is necessary for Europe to advance and deal with the needs of its citizens, and also resist the ruthless competition. And that is why I come to the MFF now. The proposals the initial proposals by the European Commission also covered our wishes to an extent. For us, competitiveness is important, and the single market is also a bridge. As regards the CAP, this is a central pillar of the European project. It has to become more effective. It has to provide depth to the common market and be adjusted to the requirements of climate change. And as regards the issue of water, which is a concern for all member states. Coming to the defense issues, we have repeatedly discussed with the President our own Greek proposals. Important steps have been made in this direction. When we are discussing defense issues, we need to be very careful to have a 360-degree horizon, and we need to be founded on a real defense industry. Pillars will be defense industry and important issues which we have to deal with in the ever-changing theater of war. So Europe has to send a message both to friends and foes. We are finally assuming responsibility for our defense, and this has to be shown with specific actions. And let me remind the President that Greece is one of the few countries that today generates important primary surpluses, and this, of course, consolidates the meaning of financial stability, much higher than the EU average. We contribute to the joint effort for building the European project. This is something that all member states need to achieve, especially the ones that are lagging behind. We have finally discussed the issue of migration in view of the full implementation of the new compact for migration and asylum in the summer of 2026. On our side, we need to see that the agreement will be adhered to and to have a fair burden sharing. But not only that, I have repeated the standing Green position that the protection of the external borders of the EU and fight against the trafficking networks are required for an important migration policy. We cannot allow the networks of illegal people to illegal networks to control who comes and who leaves the Greek and European territory. And for all this, we need the European Parliament as an ally. President Metsola is very well aware that our continent is becoming stronger when institutions and EU member states follow the same path of cooperation and joint solutions. So I will conclude by saying that today's meeting helped us realize our joint approach to common challenges that Europe is now faced with. And there are decisions which need to be implemented. So, dear Roberta, welcome again. Thank you. We are about to accept two questions, one for the Prime Minister and one for the President of the European Parliament. Ms. Kitty. A question to the President of the European Parliament. Madam President, a few days ago, the Governor of the ECB, Ms. Christine Lagarde, warned us that the growth model on which European prosperity has relied on is gradually disappearing, as she said. And at the same time, she said that according to a study by the ECB, we have a problem 100% for services and 65% with goods. So how can the European institutions deal with this huge challenge, Mrs. Metsola? And actually swiftly as is required, because, as you have also said, the international environment is volatile. So what needs to be done, please?
For this question, and what President Lagarde said has been echoed in our capitals across the European Union, where alarm bells have been ringing for a long time, but they seem to be compounded in a situation where we're facing multiple crises at the same time. Now, competitiveness remains key. And what do we mean by competitiveness? How do we continue to grow our economies, keeping them on track, making sure that the path is long and can continue to be built upon, that bubbles do not burst, that we recognize that we need to continue to invest in our health, in education, in transport, but also in security, while at the same time keeping our citizens close to us. The answer that we need to give is that citizens can count on us, that we are taking decisions, sometimes very difficult ones, that need to be explained in order for our countries, especially in other parts of the European Union, to bounce back. That is why we are embarking on a simplification drive at the European level. We have heard our citizens telling us very loudly and very clearly that some of our regulation is overburdening them. That is why we would like to look at what we've done and see, have we gone too far? Have we gone too fast? Have we not gone fast enough? Are our climate ambitions still at the very center of our economic growth? All of this will come together in the decisions that we need to take in the next months and years. But make no mistake, if in 2026 we do not turn this around in the whole of the European Union, then we will face a very, very difficult 2027, and that is why our negotiations on trade deals, the way we complete the internal market, savings and investments union, capital markets union, all of this will contribute to making us once again on a path to growth.
Next question, Mr. Spiros Mourelatos from ANA. Good evening, good afternoon, Madam President. This is a question to the Greek Prime Minister. I heard you earlier discuss the fact that competitiveness is slowing down. So which can be the right European strategy so that the EU can recover in this respect soon, hopefully? And as regards our own priorities in Greece, which are the national priorities that you have to introduce in this debate? I don't think that much more needs to be done other than provide to read the Draghi report once again in order to provide this gradual and not so obvious fall in the competitiveness of the European economy, and also to read their proposals and recommendations in order to reverse the situation. For me, the priorities are clear. As the President said, we need to simplify the regulatory framework. And under the circumstances, this should have been the easiest exercise, since there's no question that we have imposed administrative burdens on our businesses, especially the SMEs. And I'm fully aware that the President is systematically working in order to achieve this and for the European Parliament to agree with this. But at the same time, we need to deal with the high energy cost. If we take a look at the energy cost in recent years, this has practically doubled in Europe, and this, of course, burdens our industry alongside with the cost of power generation. We need a single market, more connections, interconnectors, European regulatory authorities. These are important priorities alongside the penetration of RESs that provide lower cost energy than in the past. These are priorities that need to be implemented. A single capital and investments market. We need a larger scale, the 28th estate as well. I am in contact with companies that tell me that in Greece it's okay for us, but in other countries it's not so easy for startups. And the new MFF, which needs to deal with all these challenges in a cohesive way, and we need to find the necessary initiatives. Greece is still growing at a rate that is higher, much higher than the EU average, based on a different growth model, more relying on investments than on consumerism. But we are fully aware that we need to proceed with reforms to improve the competitiveness of our economy and to maintain this advantage in our growth rate so that we can converge with Europe. But of course, the European economy cannot flourish if the Greek economy cannot flourish if the European economy is not doing well. We are a small economy that rely on the growth of Europe, and this challenge is still one to be faced. Thank you.